Good afternoon, I guess, at this point, and thanks again for the introduction. I'm Ryan Miller. A little bit about my background. I was on the virtualization team for a couple of years at GE. I spent 10 years at the company, 5 of which were in various technical roles, and the last 5 were in virtualization, dealing with companies like Cisco, Microsoft, and VMware. So to start off the talk, I kind of wanted to go over with you guys some problems that have plagued the computer industry for years that have yet to be solved. And a lot of these stem from issues of what a computer is. So the first one is just operating systems. When you have a computer, it has a specific OS on it. This generally is not a big problem because you know how to use that OS and you're familiar with it. But for someone that's using a Mac or someone that's using a PC in a large company like we have, that can introduce a lot of problems with our software compliance. How do we deal with that? How do we deal with an application so that it can run in both environments? That's a problem we've got to solve. Another one is security. With a lot of mobile devices out there that we have today, all of the data in some way is on that hard drive on the device. Whether the email is stored on it or whether some type of application holds the data, it's there. So if somebody loses that device, we have a potential hole in our security if somebody can get the data off the hard drive. We still haven't figured out that except through encryption, but encryption can be broken. And then the final thing to look at is in a company our size, with the global reach that we have, there's a big issue with getting computers and getting technology to people when they need them when they're hired. In some areas, specifically in our global growth, you will not get your computer for at least 2 to 3 months after you've been hired. That's a big issue. You can't really do your work when that happens. Now, all of these issues can be solved by adopting a complete virtualization strategy. That is why I recommend that we expand out of our beta phase and move on to a company-level support of a virtualized system. The benefits of this are huge, but it also does have some drawbacks. It's going to be really expensive up front. That's just something we're going to have to deal with because we have to build the infrastructure necessary to support it. We have a lot of server farms when we have to expand and update. We have a lot of areas that are going to cost money, specifically roughly what we're looking at about $5 million. While that isn't cheap, it's not a complete downside either. We have a lot of infrastructure we can already use out there and certain plants that we're building throughout the world that we can install our servers in and use them there. Another benefit is we can save a lot of money based on devices that people use. We have a lot of people in GE that have laptops. Not everyone is required to have a laptop. There's a lot of people in telecoms that just answer cell phone calls. People in those industries don't really need a $1,300 laptop that they never take away from their desk. So instead, we can provide them with a thin client solution that costs about $100. That's $1,100 difference between 2 setups. And if you expand that to 90,000 employees, not all of which will be that cheap, that's a lot of money that we can save. Another big benefit is security. As I mentioned earlier, when a device is lost, if somebody knows how to get into that hard drive, we're done. But with virtualization, all of our security is on a home computer server. All of our Windows information is there, all of our apps are there. So if a device is lost, all we simply have to do is cut the connection, and all of that is gone. Now you might say that, okay, if I'm offline, I can't access my data anymore. Not necessarily. There are offline options where you can take it offline, and within 24 hours, if you don't log back in again, the data is wiped. So you can have your data with you offline as well as online, with still the same security that you get with the benefit of virtualization. Now before I continue, I've covered some information, and I want to get some feedback from you guys. So what questions do you have so far on virtualization?
To what extent can we roll out virtualization? I understand there can only be so many virtual machines on a specific server. So what kind of numbers are we looking at from a logistical or a technical standpoint as far as the number of servers and the number of clients on each server?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's 2 real limiters. First is infrastructure. Where are we building the plants? If you don't have a plant close to a specific area, you're not going to be able to support the people around it. In corporate, we have a couple in Cincinnati and in Alpharetta, Georgia, and we can support about 10,000 users right now, which is a pretty good number, but for a company our size, it's nowhere near enough. Which comes in with the second factor, and that is, can we get our infrastructure out there large enough to support high-speed downloads for everyone? Because if you have a fast enough connection, everyone's going to want to adopt it. And at this point, we're ready to move up to another level and take it to about 50,000 users, which would be a really big deal. But it depends on, can we get the money for the infrastructure, and can we put it in areas such as a Russia, or such as an area where there isn't a plant, and where we don't have employees out there to give them a fast enough internet connection so they want to use this option. Yeah.
A major concern would be server utilization. Where are you aiming for this? Where are we at currently? And if we do invest in further infrastructure, the numbers, how are we gonna make sure that our utilization of these servers makes sense for our users?
Right, so you're talking about for the new servers we buy, are we using 100% of them just for virtualization, or how are we partitioning them, or where are we locating them? Is that what you're kind of talking about?
More about the partitioning and...
Partitioning, yeah, well, it depends on the solution. With the VMware solution that we're currently adopting, that we're currently using in beta, each server is set up so that there are high speed, low speed, and medium speed users. And we categorize you on that based on the job that you have. That allows us to then say you don't need 4, 5, 6 cores if you're simply a teleconference guy. You only need 1 core. And that'll allow us to optimize the amount of hardware we have without having to spend an exorbitant amount of money so that everyone has the exact same user experience. Does that kind of answer your question? Okay. Anything else? All right, so looking ahead from here, some of the things that we're going to need to do is I'd like to meet with Jared, who is now my contact, but I didn't mention that earlier, and get his approval later in the week, hopefully by Friday, at least going over our new infrastructure plans and moving forward to set a time frame for when we can get this done within the next month. Now this is a very big, yeah. Do I have your approval?
Yeah, I'll get back to you by Friday.
Thank you. Now this is a very, very big deal for the company because as I described, it's a huge move into the future of cloud computing and technologies that we currently don't support on large levels. And this is the future of the computation industry. Once we get the network up, we'll be ready to go, and it'll address issues that we've never been able to get through, such as security, such as hard drives being located on PCs, and such as supporting every type of computing device out there. So with that, I thank you for your time, and any further questions you have, I can take them now.
Okay. Very good. Okay, who has the,
I have structure again.
yeah.
I don't know how that happened. Okay, so I thought you structured it very well. Like, I feel like you really hit everything. Only a small couple things. I think at the end, asking for questions again. I mean, you're kind of, I feel like that's what they've told us not to do, is end with questions. So instead of, say, oh, feel free to email me or something like that, versus
I'm so used to doing that at the end of
right.
It's like
So just
picture.
breaking that habit.
yeah.
For the next step, I feel like, I mean, you caught yourself, you know what I mean?
Yeah, when I missed, I was just moving through at that point.
Right.
Yeah,
And I think maybe with that, make it a more like, I'm looking for your approval by, you know what I mean? Make it just a bit more firm what you're looking for, because I think I was a little confused on, wait, are you looking for approval or?
Yeah, it threw me for a ringer when I forgot to make somebody that at the beginning.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shoot, who am I looking for to talk to? And I just,
Yeah.
So,
But I thought it was all really good. Yeah. This isn't quite related, but when you're thinking, sometimes you look up, which I'm like, what are we looking at? So, but I thought you did a really good job. Who are we supposed to be as your audience?
you were like an executive board above a level. So,
okay.
Yeah, I was going to be an advanced IT
In
lead.
like in a technical company or?
In GE.
Okay, so I think I think it was in your urgent issue you covered it. I don't think you need to explain operating systems. Like that computers have operating. I think you broke it down.
The key factor there was just understanding not just that, but the idea of Android, the idea of macOS, and the idea that we want to support them, and that we have no infrastructure for that. But yeah.
Right. I think most people in a very technical company understand that computers have operating systems. I just think maybe if you break, what I'm afraid of for you is if you break it down too far to people who are very high up, it comes down as condescending. And so I just want to make sure you'll lose them, right? So just think about it a little bit like, would they know these basic facts, and you don't need to go over it. You can kind of skip right to it. But I thought you did a really good
job. I think like this much was like perfect.
Yeah.
Just like said like one sentence like.
Yeah.
Just every computer has a operating systems and this and
yeah.
That was
So.
I think it's pretty good.
I thought you did a good job.
I had use of pauses and stories. You had stories that wasn't an issue. Maybe, like she said, if you know your audience, you'll know which ones to take out at a later date. Maybe that one really didn't bother me because it was so brief, but I see what you're saying after you made that comment. I can understand how that could come across as well. Let's see, pauses, you had them. It didn't seem too awkward, so I don't really have anything more for you. Good job.
I had overall impression. I thought you had a real nice presence, a good professional presence up there, especially with a lot of times you would use your hands and do like either or, Mac, PC. So it, kept me engaged. Overall, easy to understand. You did a good job of explaining everything, even the basic stuff, and you made it easy to follow a pretty technical thing. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Hold on.
I have voice effectiveness, and you have you did a great job with everything. Use of inflection, spacing, projection, enunciation. Yeah, and you didn't have any fillers. It was surprising.
Movement, gestures, and voice. You had meaningful movement. You used your hands well. I think at the beginning you were a little bit more of the Velcro arms, but then you kind of got more into it. You had a good pace. You projected well, and like you noted, you didn't have any of those filler words. So good job.
I had connect with the audience. I thought you had a good connect. You introduced yourself and your background, and there you talked about the posing it with a question, and you were very good at answering the questions, very articulate.
I have eye contact, and I think you scanned the room pretty good. Like I didn't even realize I did see that you look up a couple times, but it didn't threw me off. You didn't always look at it. So
That's a good thing because I totally forgot the entire background when I started out. So I was like, oh dear God. But that works.
Yeah, I mean, I think that happens to all of us.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it was really good. That just
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really enjoyable listening to you. Your tone, your voice, you came across very professional, and I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, I listened, which is good. Is there a part that you have question about, or did you go, oh, I kind of like to do this one over?
Not too much. I thought it went well. I panicked at the beginning because I really did forget what I was going to go with, but I kind of slowed down and caught it enough to go with it. So I don't know. I felt pretty good about it.
Okay. Yeah. Very good.